Hello, and welcome to my next video. I'm going to talk about the same thing I was talking about last time, but what I'm going to be drawing here is a different angle of this guy. He's called a scab. He's a creature that I designed a long time ago, and I've always liked him, and I've always wanted to expand on him because I like the way his head is. So I'm gonna kind of make a 3/4 view of his head. So that's what I'll be working on. I'm using a 4B pencil, and I'll be using a Prismacolor black, and also I don't know the name of this pencil. It's a really expensive pencil, but I love it. I'll have to go look at the name. So previously, I was talking about the inner game of tennis, and again, apologize for the camera going in and out, but still kind of working this out. So the inner game of tennis is this idea that there's a self 1 and a self 2, and that these two selves work with each other in the sense that self 1 is more the executive and the director, and self 2 is more of the subconscious aspects of ourselves. By the way, I didn't like the way I did this tooth here. I I did correct it. So, but yeah, that's one thing I didn't really like in the beginning. Um, so basically, the idea behind the inner game of tennis is that the more that you consciously engage in the process, you inhibit yourself because you're accessing resources that don't work very well when it comes to, say, doing things that are difficult. It's This idea is also represented in thinking fast and slow, like type 1 and type 2 thinking. I don't remember which is which. Let's just assume that like type 1 is slow thinking and type 2 is fast. Fast thinking is like your intuition, and that's kind of what self 2 does. And the reason why this is important is because, especially when it comes to learning how to draw, what you have to do is you have to get an idea of what it is you want to draw. You have to see it in your head and then let yourself do it. And I have a friend who I've been drawing with, and she's a great example of this because she literally told me that she could not draw. And I said, well, actually, you can. And the reason why I know this is because your ability to abstract is the reason why you can't draw. So I have this theory that the more intelligent you are, the more issues you're going to have with doing things like drawing. And because when I was a kid, I suffered with this problem. I kind of mentioned this in the last video. I didn't do very good in school. So when I eventually did, learn how to abstract, it gave me the ability to then understand and articulate what I was feeling and how I was able to learn how to draw as a kid, because I could just draw what I see. I've always been good at that, so I'm using that picture that I showed in the beginning of the video as a reference for this. So all of this is, I'm just using it as a reference, and then I'm basically making it up as I go. And I'm just drawing it in as lightly as I can using the 4B pencil. And then I'm going to shade it as I go. So the process I'm using here is, oh yeah, I'm going to fix that head later. I kind of made the skull a little too small. But it's all good. Cuz this is just like a concept for this creature that I made a long time ago. But being able to learn how to draw, being able to do anything really, requires that you set a goal, you know what you want, and then you've got to get judgment out of the way. And that's critical. And this is what I was talking to my friend through. And I said, like, when you draw, you just draw something, and it's not going to come out good. But a great analogy to this is like imagine a 30 stair step, and you you get up on the first step and you go, "Oh, well, I'm not at the top. So obviously I can't do it." I mean, obviously we all know that that would be ridiculous. Just because you just have to continue, and then you'll get to the top. And the problem though is it's hard to know what our subconscious processes are learning or doing or need to do. So there's a little bit of, dare I say, faith that you need to have that something's going to come of it. But we don't know what's gonna come of it. It could be good, or it could be mediocre, or but the thing is, something will come of it, and this is what, in my opinion, pioneers do. They move in a direction, and they attain something, and they don't know what's going to come of it. They don't know what it's going to be, but when they see it, or better yet, when they recognize it, then they can utilize it. And that's the beauty of it all. So, like, what I'm drawing here, I've spent years learning how to draw this way. So there's like it's you got to let yourself to do it. You've got to let yourself to incorporate the information and knowledge that you're developing. So at this point, I'm going to make things a little bit darker and start putting value in. By the way, this is going to be a work in progress. Something new that I've been doing is spending more time with my art. I I'm a very, very impatient artist. I typically will just draw things very, very fast and never go back to them. I abandon them almost immediately. But I'm going to be coming back to these pieces so that I can work on them and improve them and learn more, because that's really what it's all about. It's about learning how to do the things that I want to do to get to a particular place. So so knowing what to do is not the same as knowing how to do it. Having a goal and knowing what the goal is completely different from knowing how to get to that goal. This might even be the whole central idea of what I'm trying to explain. Because people will often say, I know what I'm supposed to do, I just don't do it. And that's just so important. In fact, I hear a lot of people, this is kind of a joke between me and my friend, is we'll talk about the word try, when Yoda said, there is no try, do or do not. Um, but maybe we don't actually know in the sense that matters. And so that's why we have to attempt. We have to take action towards it and then readjust. A long time ago, I found out that most airplanes are off course 98% of the time. They're constantly readjusting because there's there's the wind and atmospheric things that are that are constantly pushing them off course. So you got to understand that even though you're heading towards your goal, you have to keep your eyes open to what's going on around you so that you can adjust. Because again, you can have a goal and know where you want to go and know what you want to accomplish, but more than likely, whatever your goal is, whatever it is that you want to accomplish, is not going to be the way that it's not going to come about the way that you think it's going to come about. So we know intellectually what the desired result looks like. We don't know what producing the result actually feels like. And this is the big difference. I can imagine having $1 million, but I don't know what it feels like to have to manage $1 million. And again, it's not necessarily about money. It's not about the goal that you're going after, because those can be curses in their own. How many times have I heard stories of people who have won millions of dollars and they couldn't hack it, they couldn't manage it, and they ended up losing it all. And they found themselves to be way more comfortable making a certain amount of money. And this isn't because there are people out there who can manage a lot of money. They have no problem with it. So anyone can learn how to do it. It's it's typically homeostasis that keeps people where they are because they're comfortable. And again, and I can also say there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being happy. There's nothing wrong with knowing how to handle, you might be good at handling 35,000 a year, but you couldn't handle $1 million a year. Now, I do believe that anyone can handle $1 million a year. This is one of the reasons why I was so excited to have kids. I didn't know how to have kids. I didn't know what it would mean or what kind of responsibilities I would have. I had an idea, but that's why it was so great to do, because I learned so much from it. I grew a lot from it, and I totally enjoyed the whole process. So this is the same thing with drawing. If you want to get to a particular point, if you want to be able to produce a particular result, you can imagine that result and you'll have an idea of what it is that you want. But what you're not going to know is what it feels like to get there. It's always going to be different. Typically, there's some kind of sacrifice that has to be made for you to get there. Just like having kids is a sacrifice, or managing $1 million is a sacrifice. I could get $1 million and not manage it, but then I would just lose it. A fool and their money are soon parted. There was a story in Tim Galloway's book, The Inner Game of Tennis, where this one player was told repeatedly by several pros that he was raising his racket incorrectly on his backhand. And supposedly like 5 pros had told him this, so he went to Tim Galloway and said, "Hey, I'm having this problem. Can you help me with it?" And he's like, "Okay, sure. Why don't you stop doing that?" But then he realized there's a good reason why he hasn't been doing it. And what it turned out to be is the reason was he wasn't aware. He knew what it was that he needed to do. He was literally told, but what he wasn't aware of was the fact that he was actually raising his racket. So Tim put him in front of a glass pane and had him pretend to do a backhand. And when he saw himself raise his racket, he was like, "Oh, I do raise it." He didn't know that he raised it, even though people told him that he raised it. So he was like, "Oh, I really am doing that." But why would you be surprised by something you already know? Because he didn't actually know. So knowing that you want something is not the same as knowing what it feels like to have it. The only way you're going to know what it feels like to have it is if you let yourself have it. But what's going to happen is you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to know how to handle it. But this is where self too will learn how to handle it. You will learn. You'll make small mistakes, you'll make adjustments, and then eventually you're going to know what it feels like to do it. You're going to know what it feels like to draw what you see in your head. And this is one of the key ideas I wanted to get across in this video, because the thing is, I got my IQ tested when I was younger, and my IQ is 98. So it's 2 points below average. But most people who talk to me, they'll say things like, they'll say that I'm intelligent and that I'm really smart. And really, it's because I read a lot. I read a lot of books, and I work hard at it. Knowledge that you have is different, in my opinion, from intelligence. Intelligence is really, to me, it's testing whether or not how well someone can handle new and novel situations. Like I know myself, like it takes me a while to adapt to a new situation. But if I relax, like this is what Tim Galloway teaches, relax concentration. Relax concentration, I will learn as quickly as possible. And the thing about me is I will keep at it until I'm really, really good. So that to me is something that, like, because more than likely, you people out here listening to me are going to have a higher IQ than I do. Not everyone, obviously, but for those that do, you can go even faster. You can go even farther. But you're not going to go far, and you're not going to go fast if you don't let yourself do it. So awareness, knowing what to do, knowing what you're currently doing is the key. So like as I draw this, I mean I could eventually go through and pick it apart, but what's important is that I notice what it is that I need to do differently next time. And I don't beat myself up about it. I don't make it a part of my identity. Because awareness is the mechanism of learning. You can't deliberately correct something you're not actually aware of. Awareness can't simply be commanded into existence. You have to observe what you're doing. You have to have the experience. Knowing the goal is different from having the experience of getting the goal. And that is what you're doing when you practice, or when you learn. And really everything is practice, which is kind of a cool way to look at it. Like, this is why you shouldn't take everything too seriously, or you know what I mean, like take it as serious as you should. So you have to give yourself the repetitions to get really good at what you want to get good at. And this is part of the message I want to get across when it comes to learning how to draw really well. Because you already can draw well. You can already see, and you can draw what you see. So really what you need to work on is improving your ability to see and improving your ability to draw. And the only two ways you're going to do that is if you expand your awareness. And the only way you're going to expand your awareness is if you let go of judgment, because judgment is going to put you into a state where you're going to go, oh, this is the answer. I know where I'm at. So the only way to keep your awareness open is to say, well, what is this? What So instead of this line, that line is terrible, you should try interesting. The line curved upward there. That way you're just noting what you're seeing, and then you'll know what you need. You know where you want to go. You know what you want to have happen next. So judgment asks whether something is good or bad. Awareness asks what actually happened. Another way to look at this is it's like riding a bike. Imagine learning to ride a bike. Someone can explain balance to you. They can explain steering. They can explain maybe even what you're doing wrong. But eventually, you have to get on the bicycle. You have to discover your balance. And that's what I feel like every time I draw. I'm discovering something. Because it's like I didn't see, I kind of saw this in my head and what it was going to look like. But I was discovering it as I did it, and this is like a super important thing and you can't discover if you already know the answer. There is no reason to discover anything when you already know the answer. So when learning to ride a bicycle, you need to discover balance. You need to wobble and you need to correct. You wobble the other direction, you correct again. Eventually something's going to click. You didn't intellectually solve balance. You learned what balance feels like. So that's the kind of discovery that we're talking about, and that's really what drawing's all about. Draw a bad picture. Now, I'm not telling you to draw a bad picture. I'm saying because I'm throwing you into the trap. like don't engage your judgmental mind. The drawing's neither bad nor good. So this is the most important thing to realize when you're doing something or learning something, is that what you're doing is neither good nor bad. It's part of the process, So you know what you want. You know what you want it to look like. So try it. Notice how close are you? How close or far away are you from what it is that you want? And then continue to iterate from there. I got a funny story to tell you, because so when I was growing up, my father, who was eventually kicked out of the house, he was not a good person. He was a guitarist, and my family compared me to him a lot. And so I grew up being told that I was going to be just like him. Now, that's pretty bad because he wasn't a very good person. But he was a good artist and he was good at guitar. So when I turned 16, I was like, you know what? I'd like to learn guitar. And I had this silly, stupid belief that I could learn guitar. That I would be really, really good at guitar. Because I had been told my whole life, because I already could draw, and my dad could play guitar, so I was like, oh yeah, I mean, there's absolutely nothing stopping me from learning guitar. I'm going to be a guitarist. It's so silly. So when I started, I strongly identified with my father and simply assumed, of course I'm going to learn. There wasn't much internal debate about my ability, which seems to be what a lot of people go through. Like my friend, when I said to her, no, you can draw, and here's how I know, and I gave her some anecdotal, and I gave her like a different couple points of reference and evidence as to why I believed she could draw. She just needed to try. So I practiced consistently. I made so many mistakes, and I remember my fingers would hurt so bad. I would stop playing to let my fingers, the pain die down, and then I would start playing again. Like the effort that I put in was Herculean. You know, like, I mean, of course I'm exaggerating, but it was like I just constantly played. I was like, yeah, this is going to happen. There's nothing that's going to stop me from doing this. Like, my dad's a guitarist. I'm a guitarist. Now, I put in the work, and that's why I got good. That's it. I didn't have any talent. I didn't, like, there. I realized eventually, when it comes to drawing or when it comes to playing guitar, there is no talent. You are as good as you are. And so all you need to do is you need to figure out what that is. How good are you? Let's find out. So it was simply, failure in guitar didn't mean I'm not a guitar player. It was simply part of becoming one. So after about a month, someone who played guitar asked me how many years I've been playing. And I was like, I've only been playing for a month. That's when I realized how quickly I'd been learning. But why? It was because of huge amounts of practice. It was because of persistence. But also, very little judgment about whether I was supposed to be good yet. So, lack of judgment, huge amounts of practice, and persistence. What's funny too is I realized recently that I still have days where I can't draw. Or, I mean, relatively speaking. Like, where I'm drawing something and I'm like, oh man, this does not look good. And so it's like, you're always going to have those ups and downs, So yeah, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So I guess my advice would be give yourself space. If you're currently capable of doing what you want to do, that's okay. It just simply means that there's something you haven't learned yet. So or I should say, I said that wrong. If you aren't currently capable, that's okay. It just simply means that you haven't learned something yet. So give yourself the opportunity to learn it. Give yourself time, repetitions, attention, experimentation, mistakes, observation. Give yourself space. Don't demand of self to already know something it hasn't had the opportunity to learn. Because this is how you learn, by doing it in the moment. And the more time you spend on it, and also don't compare yourself to others. There might be a time and place to compare yourself, but it's not when you're learning. Because the thing is, self too is going to take its time the way that it wants to take it. So, well, I'm going to end it here and let just continue working on this, and I'll come back to this picture, and I'll probably work on this creature more, flesh them out in different ways, make different versions of them. So that's something I've never really done before. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe. Poke.